Okay, what's going on, guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of Energized. Ross, introduce the guest, man.
We have author, politician, owner of SBG Dublin 24, the first Irishman in UFC history to get a submission win. It's Paddy the Holohan. Paddy, how are you doing?
How are you getting on? I didn't notice that one myself.
You didn't know you were the first Irishman to get a submission?
I knew I was the first Irishman to get a UFC win on Irish soil.
Yeah, but you're the first Irishman to get a submission in the UFC, and no one can take that away from you ever. You can't take away the first.
Right, you can't take away the first. So two of them, then I thought I only had one. Two, we'll take that. Fair play to you. Nice one.
No worries, Paddy. Anytime.
I was about to say, Ross, but you have Jade Wilson down there on your corner, so I was about to call you Jade.
That's the missus. Don't worry about it. Shout out to her.
It's all good.
Yeah, Paddy, we were just saying off air that it's been a year since we had you on the show last, and like so many things have changed over the past year. But like, how have you found the last year, and how are you coping with
it? Here's a mad story. Imagine I turned around last year on your show and talked about all of the stuff that's happening now, and I start like you would have been going, I think Paddy's gone off the head a little bit, you know. So yeah. We had to be talking about vaccine passports and everything that's been through. Yeah, I think it's been a heavy year. I really do. I think it's been a year for education for people, and it's opened a lot. It's opened not only just kind of the idea of people's understanding how to kind of go away from negative information and misinformation, but not only that, to be able to find the difference between two. And I think that is a skill in itself. And if there was anything I tell the youth to do, that would be what I would say to them to do these days, is learn the skill to be able to tell the difference between what is real and what is not real. And don't always just look at that person and say, they know what they're talking about, so I'm definitely going to listen to them. Because we talk about experts in martial arts. There's a lot of charlatans in martial arts that get away with being called experts. So
yeah, Ross.
No, but you know what I mean? There's a lot of charlatans out there. There's a lot of people doing this kind of like, and people are falling and all sorts of stuff, and taking guns off people and all that. Are like, you would have died there. Yeah, so I think that it's been a year of education. I have to commend the Irish nation and all the other nations across the world as well. The people, not the governments, the people have made massive sacrifices, and many times they've had them sacrifices thrown back in their faces to cover up for mistakes and create smoke for the governments that tend to fail a lot, you know.
Yeah, Paddy,
here.
I would say I have to agree with you. Normally, we don't get too involved in politics in this show. We like to keep it based on sport to sort of give people a breakaway from whatever is going on in the real world. But I must say, like, I found it quite difficult listening to some of the stuff that the government here in Ireland have come out to say. Like, the sort of spiel that we're all in this together is one of the worst spiels I've ever heard in my entire life. There's three different types of people in this pandemic. The first one is those who have benefited from the pandemic. That's probably your supermarkets, maybe your chemists, and probably your tech firms. Two, people who have remained relatively unscathed, people who are working in the government or have government-based jobs. And then third, which I actually fall into this category now, people who have lost their jobs or their income has been greatly affected. There are the three different types of people. We're not all in this together. People have very different outcomes from this pandemic. And I actually think it's quite insulting to say we're all in this together, because we're not anymore. So
when they went with
that's
that
my 2 cents.
When they went with that headline, they are messing with us. They're messing here with that. They are. I think you don't know if you've seen the video on how governments set up these kind of things where they go, stop, look, listen, so everything has a little kind of a system to it. And when they went with that one, there's no doubt they were looking at a board and there was 4 or 5 different slogans on that board, and it was like, right, lads, which one are we going to go for? And I bet you someone leaned in and said, for the crack, let's go with that one.
Throwing this together for the crack.
Let's go with that one for the crack, and let's see what happens. And it does have a nice ring to it, but if the Irish government were ever to say that we were ever in this together with anything, they're lying. They're always lying when it comes to that kind of stuff. I'm telling you. I'm in council meetings now a lot of the time, and I'm starting to get better at this. I absolutely came in here as a beginner and as a white belt, but I'm a student, I'm a learner, and I'm not in here for any other reason other than I can never look at my kids in the face when they ask me when this is all over and say, well, what did you do, Dad? What did you do when this was all going on? I did whatever I could. I tried to do whatever I could. I tried to learn. I tried to figure out what was going on, and I tried to and tell it to people. And unfortunately, if you look at history, anyone that ever stands or ever says anything is the pariah. And it's always been the way. So when you look at the 1916 Easter Rising guys, I don't know if you've ever read Padraig Pearse's letter to his mother from his cell. It's powerful, so powerful. He knew everything that was going to happen because they'd followed the revolution that had came across Europe. But it'd been coming for a long time. Ireland was nearly the last one to get it. But the textbook was there, and that was the revolution in 1916 that we seen. But when them men were dying, when they were getting shot, I think it was actually the Irish Independent called for the execution of them, of the rebels. 7 men stood up. Owen McNeill cancelled it on the day. A lot of people didn't turn up because the ship had been caught with the arms. And the boys knew that there was no other chance, that they had to do this now. And they went for it. But they all died as a shame, or as the human's greatest tool, ridicule. You know, so you need to be careful of that one. So what you do is you dig your heels in, you find your information, and you stick with your guns. And if you're wrong, you hold your hands up. Oh, there's a council meeting on my hand.
That's all right, Paddy. No, we won't give your tricks away just yet.
This is what we need. We need regulators of integrity in government. That's what we need. The show is over. It should be no longer called a job or a political career. You know, it's like, let's get rid of that. Most of the people that have been in the Dáil have been in there through generations. So they've got us here. So there's the responsibility. Here we are. You have had a chance, you know, and I think maybe we are the generation now, the generation of the institutionalized, the people who had to move to different countries, the working class, the middle class, and all of the classes now. And I think people that have came and settled here in Ireland and called Ireland their home now, you know, it's time that generation stood up and held the wheel, you know. So and I won't say this, that the government work for us, because when you look at the Constitution, they actually don't. I think it's Article 1. It's like it says that we get the choice and have the privilege to elect the rulers, and then they get the choice to make the government and make the legislation. So anything after that, and it's for the common practice or the common good of the country. So we end up in a situation where they get to describe what the common good is.
And Paddy, obviously you've ended your affiliation there with Sinn Féin, but did you have a political mentor? Do you have someone who you look up to in politics and go, oh, I want to be like that person? That person makes a difference.
A lot of people probably don't know this, but there's no doubt I went in there as them thinking I was remember Conor going into the UFC saying, we're not the token Irish guys in here, you know, and he was dead right about that, but he didn't really believe him. I'm not the token cage fighter. You know, I'm not this working class young fella that you can just wind up and he's going to run and do everything that you think. Not me. I'm skilled in the art of war, and sans if you must. And the idea of my grandfather's been raising me for this now. My grandfather died when I was 15. But every Saturday I would sit in his house and he would tell me, we would watch the Dáil and he would tell me how it works, how counts work, how quotas work. And I didn't really know all of that stuff at that time, you know. And it was only when I got older that I started realising that. But it's only when you learn something, you're like, he was saying that to me, you know, he was teaching me that. So I spent a lot of time in Belfast, and I don't know, like this situation, everybody's political now because you get forced to be when you're in a situation. So when I grew up in Lannadown in Belfast, I'm looking out the window going, why is this happening? What is going on here? How come we're not allowed over there? And how come they're not allowed over here? And how come that guy has a machine gun walking down the road, you know? And that's, as a kid, Arnold Schwarzenegger would have been your hero and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So we would have been like, this man has a machine gun, you know? So you end up in a situation. Sorry?
Go on. I was just going to say,
you end up in a situation where politics, unfortunately, enters your life because it's part of where you're living.
I was going to say, I suppose one thing that does play in your favor is you play the game of human chess jiu-jitsu. So, you know what I mean? You're always a couple of steps ahead.
Yeah, I have a martial arts mind for sure, and that's it. And I've no ego, and I'm not in this for gain. I do say this sometimes, and I don't want people to think, especially the people who elected me here in Jobstown. I do say I don't want to be here. I'm not supposed to be here, but I'm looking around and I'm saying someone's going to do it, and you are someone, you know. And unfortunately, until I hope other people start thinking like me and start realizing like me that we can no longer sit back and watch this. This is not an episode on Netflix, you know what I mean? This is real life. And we're heading in a direction where I think, especially with housing and building and like some of the places that are being bought up, there's multiple amounts of apartments being bought up. They get let out. They get let out, so they get rented at high rents. Some of them are on HAP rents as well, which is like a housing assistance payment, which is paid through kind of like taxpayers' money and stuff. And some ministers and some politicians are well into this game of the housing game, you know. And in 10, 12 years' time, when you do the maths of the rent that we are paying out now, so there'll be €2,000 for the rent. So when you do the maths, in 20 years, that whole block will be paid for, and then they own that. And then guess who's going to be renting them apartments at 100% profit? Your kids, Jade, and my kids, Barry. I'm only messing. I'm only moving you up there.
Well, out of the two, out of myself and Barry, I'm the only one who has a kid, so I'll take that on the chin.
Oh, then so you imagine how scary that could be, and then all of a sudden you're not even that, but your kid's landlord is not really somebody who grew up and worked the butt off to pay for an apartment that now your kid lives in. So I don't know. I'm not making any assumptions here. All I'm saying is I'm just watching down the road of what's happening. And my own area is a good example of it. City West has had some incredible buildings in it now. And there's a thing called an SHD. I don't know if you know what that means.
No,
well, I know you wouldn't have either, lads, but as I said, I'm learning. So an SHD is a project where a developer comes to the county council, and what they do is if they can offer more than 100, say, properties or 100 units, so 10% is supposed to go to social housing, which does. But if you bring 100 forward, you no longer need permission of the council or the county council. You now get permission off a thing called onboard Panola. And onboard Panola decide then what happens in all of these housing estates. And onboard Panola is a much smaller board of people. So as a councillor, I can't vote against, I don't know, say a 15-story apartment block that's getting put up somewhere, and you're like, it breaks all the rules, all the local area plans. The fire brigade don't have ladders that are 15 stories high, and you're saying this stuff, but it's like, shut up, you. You know what I mean?
Well, I suppose like that is the political scene in Ireland at the moment, Paddy. But just to get things back MMA wise, obviously, you know, this year has been rough for the Irish MMA scene. Clan Wars is cancelled, followed by Cage Legacy also being cancelled. Will Irish MMA be able to continue to exist in the coming years? Because a lot of the gyms are under pressure as well because they can't open at the moment. What's your take on it, Paddy?
I said at the start of all of this that the bigger gyms need to sort of kind of help some of the smaller gyms when this is all over, in a way, you know. So whether that be, I don't know, running some fundraising stuff or just trying to get the other gyms back on their feet a little bit, because whether we like it or not, we need all of the gyms, because the more we have, the more competition we have. But I think what the Irish scene is missing is we've built this from the top down. So if this was a triangle, we've built it from the top down. So we started in the UFC basically, and we didn't start there, but you know what I mean.
It was first recognized as in the UFC.
Yeah, and we've built backwards, but we haven't really got a lot done, and that's just being straight. That's just what I think. I think IMAF is a great structure. I think IMA is a great structure. The idea of coming together. There's a lot of division in Irish MMA, which hasn't made it happen as fast as it maybe should, but there's still no national scene. So there's zero national scene where when I was coming up, you could fight every single weekend. There was a show all the way, you know. So there was Cage Contender, then there'd be Chaos in Derry, and it'd be just
Battle Zone.
Sorry?
Battle Zone,
yeah. Andy Moyne's show and the boys out there. And there'd be just some amazing shows all the time. There was always places to get fights. Now it's very hard to get fights. So
why is that, Paddy? Why is that? Because like myself and Ross would love to be going every Saturday. Like Ross is sure TV. He has one for every day of the week. Like,
I think it kind of happened when a lot of the regulations came in. Now, and I'm for the regulations, so I want to state that point as well. So a lot of the brain scans came in, a lot of the bloods, but that unfortunately sometimes that's the way it needs to go. It needs to go into a way to be more recognised, and not only just to be recognised by the Irish Sports Council, because I don't even think the Sports Council that recognise some sports cared about them sports. You know, when you think about it, it's golf, it's greyhound racing. It's there's a lot of stuff being taken away from other stuff, if you get me. Do you know what I mean? And I don't play golf. I don't bet on dogs, so that doesn't benefit me. There's a lot of sports out there that are with the Sports Council and are getting let down as well.
And is there like a board of directors of MMA in Ireland?
Yeah, so on OIMA. So OIMA will be the board of directors. I probably couldn't tell you who it is now, to be honest. It's been a while since I've been there, but but there is, and then this is no fault to anybody. There's so many people working so hard behind the scenes, and people like Clive Stone, people like Limo Griffin and stuff like that, and all. Like there is people working really, really hard behind the scenes in this. I just think there needs to be a little bit more togetherness, a little bit more discussion, and a little bit more of like what the yous want regarding the scene.
Do you think it could take, all the gym owners from all across the country to sort of meet up at the one time and see if they can build Irish MMA in like almost point of direction to bring it forward? Because at the moment, I assume there's no government funding for MMA in Ireland, and I think that would fall under. I don't know who'd you go to, Jack Chambers for that, and like I think I know I wouldn't be too delighted to have to knock on Jack Chambers' door either. Lovely haircut, but that's about all I can say about him.
I can tell you what he's going to say.
What's he going to say, Paddy?
I'll have to ask some people. Actually, to be honest, I'm not too sure about that part there, so I'll actually have to get back to you on this bit. And the other thing that you asked me about, to be honest, I have been thinking that, and I do agree with your point, but it's going to be a little while down the road before we see that, and I'll have to get back to you about the other points that you said about your other points, and I'll get back to you. Am I done, Carlet? Sound.
That's also very reminiscent of his Virgin Media Tonight performance as well.
You know what I mean? I'm just going to let me dog out the back here, right? Because she's doing circles here. She's gonna...
Yeah, so you put the dog out, did you? The dog is gone?
80.
Yeah.
Paddy, she's Chelsea's dog, but she's
you haven't adopted her. You haven't adopted the dog.
No, she has more roots around here than I do.
And Paddy, if you were to change 2 or 3 things in Irish MMA scene from the ground up, what would be the 2 or 3 things that you would change to add that bit of recollection together and sort of point it all in the one direction?
I'd love to see a board that really gets, that I won't say really gets along, because that's probably not a great board, to be honest. A board that sits on a national scene, Now, I know Gamma is there as well, and that's Philip Mulcair's baby, I think, in that way, you know what I mean? And lots of people have came in to kind of help that grow as well. And I think that is brilliant. But, like, we don't have an Irish champion. We don't have an Irish bantamweight champion. We've never really have had that, And I think if we all got together and we made sure, like, government funding you mentioned there a little while ago, I don't think that's going to help, It's very expensive to compete in MMA. MMA is probably one of the most expensive sports to compete in regard, especially if you want to go away for OIMA. So if you want to go away for the IMAF championships twice a year, you could be talking probably $5,000, as a
that
coach,
sounds doing it cheap as well. That sounds doing it cheap.
Yeah, that's cheap. Now, as a coach, like I've had to pay my own flights, my own accommodation. Like I've paid £800 to sit by the cage and actually coach Irish athletes. I don't know if you know that. So coaches have to pay the exact same amount as athletes have to pay, and they don't even get to hit anybody. If I hadn't, they're getting hiding backstage for the whole week, 5 times a day. Do you know what I mean?
Well, especially if you can consider, the hotel is getting so many fighters being paid. You almost think the coaches, they'd be like, for every amount of fighter you bring, you get X room free. For every 5 rooms you book, you get 1 free for the coach. You know what I mean? You think there'd be something along those lines,
We tried maybe some fundraising kind of sparring sessions and stuff like that and all, but I don't know where it ever raised. We don't know where it ever kind of amounted to. But I know anytime I've been in Bahrain and I've been in Italy so far. Andy Ryan rang me one day to come on as an assistant coach, and I was like, absolutely, this is a great idea. I want to give back. I always want to give back, and not only that, but I want some of the athletes to be able to feel that movement, and you know what I mean, in a way. And when I was out there in Bahrain, every evening I was up kind of grappling with the people who had been knocked out. I don't mean knocked out, but knocked out of competition. And people were like, "Oh, we're out knocked out youngsters."
There's your headline tomorrow. There's the headline.
Yeah, we might just cut this bit out and put that in.
Yeah, we'll put that bit out.
We live in. But anyway, and you're running with other coaches from other countries, and it's great. And like in Italy, it was the same. And one of the nights, down kind of showing some skills on the beach, and you know, it's just really, really good to be able to link with the athletes like that, see the fire in the young athletes, and know that, like when we were looking up the hill when we were coming up, like anybody that had touched the UFC was full of knowledge, or you know what I mean, was tell us more, and I can see that in their eyes now, and it's deadly because I just give them as much time as possible and tell them not to make mistakes and just little stuff, you know what I mean? It's not always technical. To be honest, I think technical part of this game is probably about 60%, and then 40% is you want to make it, you want to provide for your family. You need to know whether you want to do this as a professional for a job, or whether you're doing this because it really makes you feel good and you enjoy it.
Yeah, Ross, like, I mean, like Paddy, as you know, like we cover the sport, and like I fall more and more in love with the sport, not just in Ireland but around the world. The more and more we like, as weeks go on, the more shows we do, I just love covering it. And it's just the athletes you meet, and then some of the stories are so like heart wrenching, and like to see how much they put in, and some of them are parents as well, on top of everything, or some of them are broke as well, and for it to not to be recognized, like the way the government just put it, as if like it's the black sheep of the family in the back, you know what I mean, the back of the photograph, or they may take the photograph, but I mean, it can't go on for much longer, because like, look the way the stuff on the internet is, things are blown up, like knockouts or wins or stories. The Francis Ngannou one in the UFC, like these are the stories that should be told, and it's just, I feel like Ireland's missing out, but we have like stars here ready to put up on a pedestal almost. I don't know, Ross, what do you think, man?
Well, I must say, when we were first doing this show, Paddy, we were looking to get the biggest and best names on. We have had some great guests. We, like, in terms of Irish MMA, we've had yourself, we've had Roddy, you know, Philip Peter, we had Tommy Egan on there recently, and then in terms of like worldwide superstars, we've had like John McCarthy, Josh Thompson, Sugar Sean O'Malley, Leon Edwards, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, like the list goes on. But this latest lockdown has made me realize that I actually love promoting the Irish MMA guys, and the guys who are on the way up. I like giving them an opportunity to voice how they feel and what they're doing. And I actually get so much more out of giving back to those guys and letting those guys and giving them a platform to say how they feel or promote their fight. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who need to be pushed. And I suppose there is something Irish where you do want to support your own. And I just feel like when we have the Irish athletes on, like when we launched the Face Off, I think Josh and Chad were the first Face Off that we did. And I loved that.
Good. Yeah, we loved it, man.
I love that. Like, we buzzed off that for about 2 weeks straight. We were like, that was class. You know what I mean? And then also, like, we're very much on about like giving the females equal respect, because I think it's the one sport in the world where females are treated the exact same as the males. There is no drop off.
I wanted to say this to you. I want to actually touch on that, because I actually think MMA champions equality more than any other sport. I would challenge somebody to bring another sport that champions equality more than MMA. I don't think there is. We had when you had the Mackenzie Dern fight the other night, absolutely amazing, and the skill level as well, you know. And then you have just like the idea of say Ronda Rousey as a superstar. You have back to Gina Carano, Askren Daly, being like the first Irish UFC or UFC world champion, not UFC world champion, but world champion. You know what I mean? You have Lee McCourt at the moment now as well. Then you have other people coming up behind, like you have like Sean O'Bannon, who he's had on himself as well. Who's going to be an absolute superstar, staying on the right road, you know, and I really do think that that would be a challenge to find a sport that champions equality better than MMA. And that's one of the things I love about it. I remember being on the mat in Canada, and when I was I think it was 19 years of age, and just looking around and being like, this is amazing. I was rolling with someone who was the district attorney at the time over there, and I'm straight out of Jobstown. Do you know what I mean? I was like, this is what I'm here. I loved it. I used to be buzzing after session because of that, because there was just so much diversity in the room, you know, like so many different cultures, so many different kind of traditions to be able to learn from, and not just learn about traditions, but learn skills off people as well, you know. So it's I think every kind of culture as well kind of adds something to this as well, in a way, you know. You've got like the Russians, the Irish, the Americans, then the Brazilians. You know, it just all comes together. I think it's a really good melting pot, and not only that, but the skills keep getting better. So it's a really something I like to champion in this sport. Is that it's a massive for the quality. So I don't know how the government aren't getting behind it. To be honest, I'm saying I'm not too concerned whether they're getting behind it or not. But there is other ways. We don't need the government to just open up that person and show us it. We don't need that. There's many ways to make money to make this work if we needed to make it work. You know.
Yeah. What else? What else would you recommend? I know obviously you can't just look at how bad Manchester United performed, just throwing money and not being able to get the right people in. But what sort of more steps would you take? I know Ross asked you this sort of question already in a different way, but like what can you see over the next year or two?
There's many ways to fundraise. That's like a little rhyme, isn't it? Many ways to fundraise. We should use that for my government slogan.
Yeah, you learned that one off Owen Colgan.
Did he say that?
Oh, my joke.
Did he say that?
I just know your best mates.
Yeah, me and Owen. That's what I'm saying. Me and Owen. You know what I mean?
He'd fight any man.
Someday we're going to have a knock me and Owen. For sure. In the nicest way possible. No, but so there is many ways to fundraise, you know, and that's what we should be doing. So it should be the idea of, say if there was, we were putting on shows and it was a collection towards all of the coaches. So all of the coaches in the country kind of come together and everybody gives it a bit and we pack out one big show 3 times a year, you know, and them dates never change. We ask the councils to come on board and support this because this is I won't say this is easy, but like MMA saves people. And that's it. So at this moment in time, we've never needed or never had more of a chance to be able to say, well, you know what? Let's create some programs to integrate into the community. And not only that, but then raise people up out of the community and make champions out of them. Make all-Ireland champions out of them. And then they get the opportunities with sponsors and all the rest of it just happens. But we could fundraise without the problem does be that promoters have to put their neck on the line and risk the money. But a lot of people came together. I don't know if it was $2,000 each or something like that, and we put it all into an account or something like that, and then start running a show that was based on, you know, a board in a way, rather than somebody owns and somebody knows what's going on. Because sometimes you're dependent on integrity, you're dependent on fairness, and I'm starting to realize in life, if you depend on them things, you're probably not going to get them.
Yeah, exactly. Left in lurch, isn't it? It's a bit of that nice guys finished last.
Exactly.
What would you think?
Yeah, listen, and I know that because I'm a nice guy.
What would you think, Paddy, if you know, between IMAF and Gamma, you know, I mean, there's a bit of a coming together, and you made sure there was 4 shows a year, 1 in Dublin, 1 in Cork, 1 in Galway, and 1 up in Belfast, and that way, you know, you knew those 4 dates. You know, you have 3 months to bang off one, then 3 months to the next, and 3 months to the next, and 3 months to the next. And that became like the show. You did, I don't know, 20 fights on each show, and like that was the start of something. What would you think of that?
That's what I'm talking about. You know, I think that's a savage idea, and the idea of that, right? Everyone would know who the person was for that position, because we're kind of running into a situation like this. And as I said, I'm not getting at anybody. I'm not getting at anybody because I feel that everybody's doing a massive amount of work and they all have so much on as well. We all have so much on with our gyms and athletes and all that going around. The pro, just it's madness. You know what I mean? But if we could kind of designate people to actually fix this part and build this part together, we would know who the people are, because we're heading in a direction where sometimes it's not going to be the best person for the job because they're broke. Or working class. I know for a fact that IMAF and IMA, I probably would not be able to be involved at the level of that I'd need to be for gold medals and stuff like that. And I know it's hard. It's like, yeah, but get a sponsor, and that 1 year somebody sends you away twice. That's a big commitment for the company, you know, to go back and say, yeah, well, I need to go again. That's another big commitment for the company. So not many people are going to be able to there. Yeah, and I don't want money ever pushing people out of this sport, because if anything, this sport thrives in council housing estates and I'm not just saying that, you know, but I just know for a fact that people that need this sport need to be in this sport, and they need to be encouraged sometimes. It's not always going to be like, well, you come to my club, you pay away, you know. It's I don't know. It's like I don't want to say, it's like if you're dealing with someone and say an addiction or something like that, if you're willing to help somebody come up, sometimes you've got to be willing to let them fall 9 times and reach out. And the coaches in this country are amazing for that in a way where they give so many different kind of chances and stuff like that to people. But we need to now start creating not just the chances and giving them, but the opportunities too. I think it's very hard to tell somebody, right, sound, you picked for the Irish team and you're going to Bahrain. And they're like, right, Delhi. But then they realise it costs $2,500 or something, you know, so...
And I suppose that comes down to it there. We might not actually be sending the best guys. We might be sending the best guy who can afford it, or the best girl who can afford it, which is could be very different to the best guy. But I suppose, I think maybe what we can all agree on is Irish MMA maybe needs a bit more structure and a bit more collaboration between everyone to improve it onwards and upwards. I think we can definitely all agree on that. I suppose
some incredible volunteers there ready to go. Sorry, Ross, like, you know, if you think of the people like that are like, I'm willing, no problem, put my time in, you know what I mean? And I've been coaching for 15 years, and but not only that, like my qualifications show that, like my coach, I was in Canada, I trained in Vancouver Tech, and I done coach management, agility training kids with disabilities, a lot, you know what I mean? So I don't want nothing. I'm willing to pay to do this. And then you have people like Andy Ryan and then Limo Griffin and Dino Wade and Philip Mulpeter and stuff like that. And then, like, you know, so, and then then you have John Kavanagh and Roddy at the top and stuff like that with the idea on the board, and Clive Stone. And there's a lot of good people that are coming together here. So I don't think it's impossible, you know. I think this can work for OIMA and for OIMAF. But it needs to have a national scene, and it needs to not only just give these opportunities to people, it needs to create the opportunities to be able to give that to that person too. So maybe 4 or 5 sponsored athletes or scholarship athletes go a year or something like that.
And shout out to Tom King, Chris Fields, because I think they're the only 2 people we haven't named.
Sorry, only because the boys that are not involved with IMAF at the moment, or
no, that's all right,
stuff like that. But then again, 2 absolute veterans of the sport as well that are blazing a whole new lane, if you ask me, on their own. So the Cage Warriors lane was always a lane that was there, but they're the boys running it now with Ian Gary and doing amazing things themselves. You know what I mean? At Team KF, but. There's been many lanes to where you were going, and depending which way you go, always there was positives and negatives. And the OIMAF and the OIMA one is new. That's the newest lane of them all, you know. So that was, you go the Ultimate Fighter, and then you get signed, or you go Cage Warriors route, or you know, you just get a heap of wins and then wait for the UFC to come in. And, you know,
just before we get into like the sort of the next wave and this weekend's fights as well, I just want to say like hopefully people are watching this and they'll take something from it and be like, right, maybe you'll start moving things in their brain to move things forward, because like obviously myself and Ross cover Irish MMA, and we want something to be sort of sorted for not our own personal gain in any sort of way. It's just like these people are putting so many hours and missing out so much time with their families, and you know they should be compensated in some sort of way, and they're not getting it. It just doesn't. I know we said like you can't wait. If you're sitting there waiting for fairness, you'll be waiting for a long time, but something can be done, especially the way. Obviously, we'll get into it now. The way, like, obviously, Conor, like, trailblaze for everyone. That Paddy. By the way, Paddy, I have to say, I love when you are sitting after your wins, and then I think he passes you the Middleton Rares, and he's like, "Go on, the hooligan." And then he's just, you know, it's just like,
that's a mad moment. Like when you're
looking legendary. It actually is legendary. You're there, happy as Larry.
Mental. Like, this is what's going on here. Like, just like we're sitting at the top of this Dana White's there. Like, it's just like, act cool.
He acted cool, but the thing is, right, we'll get into it now. Obviously, Conor is now facing Dustin Poirier on the 10th of July. There's going to be fans allowed in the arena. But when you heard that fight was being made, what did you make of it? The trilogy's on. Like, what are your thoughts on the trilogy?
I'm delighted, and I know some people would be like, "Oh well, how long? You don't just jump back and get it." Conor deserves it. Let's be straight. If there was ever a special case for somebody to say that someone deserves some special treatment, it's Conor. Conor has put some serious numbers on and not nearly close to anybody. So that's how it works, you know. I think, unfortunately, in business, you know, he puts a lot of money, puts a lot of bums in the seats, and for that alone, he absolutely deserves to have another go at this. So how exciting is this? It's 1-1, you know. I think that the last one kind of made the Dustin Poirier made this a little bit more exciting, you know. Dustin's a great fighter, even if you look at the first fight. Dustin was good. Dustin was landing some shots and stuff like that. And then, but I think even in that fight just gone, you're seeing Conor was landing the shots, and I think Dustin he admitted he was panicking, you know, and I can kind of see it, and then obviously he caught Conor with a few beautiful shots himself, you know. But I think I've always said this about Conor. It's like a machine, and you feed the machine a jab, a left, a cross, it'll just translate that back into you and break your jaw. You know what I mean? In a way, that equals broken jaw. You know what I mean? Or a broken nose, whatever which one, you know. So.
Take your choice.
Yeah, take your choice. So,
yeah.
I think even noticing Conor was squared in the last one a little bit. Kind of, I think everyone's knows that themselves as well. But like, that's it. He kind of goes in and knocks him out with 2 shots. It's like, whoa, this is, you know, and you'll never, ever, ever be able to trial and error things in this game and be satisfied. Because sometimes when you win, it's just like sound.
Yeah.
But then sometimes when it doesn't go your way, it's like, over and that's sometimes honestly you need that, but there's definitely a different outcome of winning and losing regarding analysts to what you've done, you know. So
Paddy, I just want to ask you, I don't know, did you see the back and forth between Dustin and Conor today on Twitter?
Boys, I stay away from Twitter. Is anyone even reading on Twitter anymore? I don't even.
I'll give you the background.
Give us the lowdown. Give us the lowdown.
Dustin Poirier said Conor has dodged the donation to his charity, and he's been reaching out to him since January. Conor has refuted the claim and sort of said, "Here, look, I was looking for a breakdown of what you were going to do with the money before I sent you. I'm not just going to send you 500 grand and say thanks very much." But now Conor's gone to the stage where he said, "You know what? I think he called him a hillbilly and a few other derogatory terms, and said, the fight's off. I'll fight someone else July 10th. Go, what's called? I hope you enjoyed your pay-per-view money while you had it." What do you make of this back and forth that I've sort of regurgitated to you? And if the fight is off, who would you like to see Conor fight on July 10th instead?
Well, I think Dustin being that involved with a charity is, first of all, absolutely amazing. And I think the arrangement the 2 guys had was amazing. I absolutely understand. I would be asking for a breakdown of what's going to happen and what's going to be done with that money as well, because not that Dustin's going to do anything. But I don't know, if he's building a new office out his back, that's just, you know what I mean? You got to be watching, and that's just the way I would be. Now, I'm not saying that in any way that Dustin would do anything else with that money, but Conor asking for a breakdown, if this was a county council or any other kind of money that we're talking about at that sum, to ask for a breakdown and someone not to give it is weird. That's what I would say. So I would have automatically thought that would have been a given.
And one thing I will add, I don't think Conor McGregor is actually sitting behind the computer himself with the back and forth. He has representatives who are sitting back doing the back and forth, and you know, Dustin's dealing with them guys. You know what I mean? I'm sure Conor would like to get his eyes on the breakdown himself, but at the end of the day, I don't think he is reneging on giving the $500,000. I think he'll happily give it. I just think he needs to see what he's giving it towards.
Sure, he just threw $1 million, didn't he, into the PPE when our own bleeding country wasn't doing it, and had to gild bleeding Bono and all into it.
and PPE that fits, Paddy. Don't forget that. That's the important part.
And his mate didn't get the contract, I'm sure.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Oh, I think actually the woman that did get the contract that he used to do that, I can't remember her name, but it was an incredible woman. She came on and thanked him herself and stuff like that about it. So she had a field in that as well. So. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure the countless donations to Crumlin Children's Hospital. I'd say he's their biggest, at least, athlete donor.
Absolutely. Listen, let's just bury that there. Right? Conor has no problem giving money to charity or apartment money and stuff like that. So, and he's not short.
He's actually a philanthropist at this stage, even though that's a very hard word to say.
I like it.
But he is at this stage. But let's just say this does sort of kick on. And he says, "Dustin, you can jog on there, mate." Is there anyone else you'd actually like to see him fight on July 10th?
I've always wanted to see that Tony Ferguson fight, I have to say, probably.
Yeah.
That would be a good fight. I think after a few shots though, I think Ferguson not being able to get the takedown. I've always found him a little weird. That's just being straight. Ferguson, you know.
I don't think anyone's ever called him normal, Paddy.
yeah. You would be weird to not find him weird. No, and like now, there's massive respect for him as well because he's an absolute engine. But the stuff he does is just so unorthodox that it's kind of like it's a bit crazy at that level, you know. Like
it's like he was born in a cave.
Yeah, and he does like two twists, like, and he's running and all. I don't know, but I'd like to see that because I think that would be kind of like that would be nearly like grappler versus striker kind of thing, high level grappler being like Eddie Bravo's kind of team and stuff like that and all. Like being a black belt under Eddie Bravo. But then again, the trilogy, the Diaz one, like, so it's like. But I know Diaz is booked for something. But let's be straight. Like if Dustin wanted to bounce, I'm pretty sure Diaz would be willing to take the book.
Jeez, yeah, definitely. And then I think Justin Gaethje is also waiting in the wings. He doesn't have a date for anything as well. So there's another option. But I think Conor might be not inclined to pay the Ali Abdulaziz guys if he doesn't have to.
I think that if Justin Gaethje met Conor, Dustin Gaethje would get an awful hiding, and that's just being straight. He has that shape. He has kind of like that Eddie Alvarez shape, and even like when I seen that, and even like what's the other one that's been chasing it for ages? The Red Panty boy. He was actually the Red Panty.
Rafael Dos Anjos.
The original Red Panty.
The OG of the Red Panty game.
Yeah, stop. He's got the green panty stuff. That was cringy, wasn't it?
Kamaru Usman. Josh actually shared something there the other day on his Instagram, and he copies him word for word on everything.
Irish accent in it, am I right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
he was like in his best Dublin accent. He goes line him up.
I was like, all right. The Sanyos one, I really do as well. I think his body shape, that type of body shape, kind of the Dennis Seaver body shape, any of them body shapes, Conor just chose them. He's too long. His reach is a little bit too long for him. You know what I mean? I think when they get hit, it's very hard to get a takedown. And then even if you look at Diego Brandao as well, another kind of and another dangerous.
Yeah, Diego was unbelievable in the Ultimate Fighter.
Dangerous, like that's what
everyone was afraid to be in the room with him. They were freaked out by him.
He really turned from like sort of rabid attack dog to like lost puppy when he got in there with Conor.
You want to see him in the room after the weigh-in?
Why was he pumped?
Not pumped. He was just I could smell that kind of that little bit of it like that. He was now, but he was like fearful in the way where he would attack, not fearful in the way where he would be intimidated. And I think that's in you. You know what I mean? You see that. So he wasn't intimidated, but he was up. I can imagine he didn't sleep well that night at all. Yeah. So because he was wound up in that room for sure.
Paddy, like obviously Conor's doing like I don't know. I can't even believe one man can do so many things, right? But like a lot of people these days, like they're like, who's next in the UFC? They're always asking us, and then obviously Dean Barry has had a fight lined up for a while, and then obviously the rise of Ian Gary.
Should have had that fight. Why didn't he have that fight?
Paddy, I don't know. Like it was meant to happen. It was meant to happen.
Would have been screaming for that fight. Give anybody at that stage. You know what I mean?
I took the
UFC on 5 weeks. 5 weeks. Like I signed 5 weeks, and then fought Josh Sampo. I think Josh Sampo was like a 3 times All-American wrestler, probably the worst ever case I'd been. And I'd come out of surgery. I'd got the surgery on the 13th of December, a back surgery, and then I fought in July. So all of that was recovery to that, and up to that was the surgery before that, and all it was a mad situation. Sorry, I had it December, and then thing. Like I don't know, I would have been straight.
And you know what, Paddy? He was probably a bad matchup on pay-per-view as well. You know that?
Wow, 100%. I knew that. Everybody knew that. That's why the odds knew that. Right? I was 6-1.
I actually looked at fight night because that was Barry's first ever like UFC fight night, and like I was like right, you have to come to this because I've been to a few battle zones and stuff before, and I was like, right, you're coming to this, right? And then I brought him, and he was like, what do you think of the Irish guys' chance? And I go, I think they'll all win. I go, but Paddy Holohan's like definitely has the hardest fight. I was like, your man Sampo's very good, and I can't remember, but he just beaten someone who was quite good before fighting you as well. And I was like, that guy is sort of short but like stocky as hell. And then the first ever submission win by an Irishman in UFC history, Paddy the Holohan.
And I dropped him. We're now pop boy.
You can't keep adding stuff in here, Paddy, right? Like you got the first ever.
Sorry. No, but listen, seriously.
The first knockdown.
Took that fight on the island, and that's just my opinion on it. Should have took that fight on the island, absolutely 100%, because we don't live forever. Jump out the nest and fly, and that's what we think, you know.
Well, the question was
sort of visa issue, though. What I think.
Yeah,
he couldn't get a visa.
But it wasn't him that couldn't get the visa; it was the other guy who couldn't get the visa.
Oh, was it? Okay.
That's just what I make of it. And I know the UFC will find anybody.
Yeah, they could have rang me.
Do you know who's been a good fight on it? Reese McKee.
Yeah.
I could see that
that'd
he
be
got the
serious
bad
now.
end of the stick the last time.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
man,
was disappointing as well.
Like,
But,
that's
Paddy,
situation,
but Paddy, I was more sort of asking you, like, you obviously have your ground ear to the ground. Like, what sort of like talent do you see that's coming through that is really someone that people watching now should be looking out for?
I think there's some amazing talent coming up. I really do. Like I think, and it's not just kind of in one gym anymore. You know, it's spread definitely across. So you have, say, Pat Holohan would be someone to name. Out in Roddy's, I think, like even like when you look at J.R. Harris and you look at like Ryan Curtis coming into kind of maturity and stuff like that and all. And then obviously you can't pass Ian Garry. Ian Garry is an absolute animal, you know what I mean? So some of the, even the maturity of his performances, you know, and it shows his coaching. It shows the level of coaching that he's getting as well, and the idea of like not just skills but the maturity. You can tell that the guy has held that belt before and they're surrounding it like sharks again, you know. And then you have James Webb and stuff like that in with the lads. So yeah, and then in my own place, there's some absolute animals there. Like, and really, my whole dream with this all was to come back and develop a squad and develop my own team and do it from scratch. And I'm not into the idea of somebody jumping in half built. You know what I mean? In a way, like, I don't mind helping anybody.
You want a hooligan from the ground up.
From the ground up. That's my sound of it. You know what I mean? Because you don't just build skills there. You build everything. You build relationship. You build trust. You build loyalty. You build all of these things. And some people's loyalty, I don't know, maybe they're not getting it at the start, or that they're giving too much of it at the start and they're not receiving enough of it at the start, and they get stuck, and it actually goes against them. And if the coach is in a situation that they notice that, loyalty should go both ways, where they say, listen, you need to move on now, or you need to, I don't know, you know what I mean, in that way. But loyalty is a big thing, and I see some people getting stuck for loyalty, and not just in Ireland, in other teams and other like high-level athletes as well. You just refuse to leave teams, or refuse to move on, or refuse to merge teams and develop with other people. You know what I mean? I think that's really important in development. So, but like I think Josh Green has the touch of like a sleeping pill. You know what I mean? He has that heavy hand. He hits you, and you're out. Like, you know, that was a good
7
guy.
seconds.
It was a good guy beat the last time as well. Purple belt in jiu-jitsu under John Sheridan out there, and then I mentioned Sean O'Bannon already as well. But Sean O'Bannon is absolutely incredible athlete. You know what I mean? Silver medal in the world on our first time out there, and beat a champion on our first fight. Fought 3 fights, went through. Who else? Mikey Bourne. I don't know if he's on Mikey Bourne now in my place as well. Has this left hand. It's like a snake's tongue. It's like in and out, and all of a sudden your nose is broke. There's loads. There really is. There's Yosef as well, which is another guy who was just on Clan Wars there. For Patrick Doran, if you get a chance to look at the fight, really good distance. I look for the idea of like, if this gets better at the rate it's getting better, it's going to be better.
That's it.
Absolutely, yeah. Like there's so much talent. I think that's what made Clan Wars and Cade Legacy being cancelled so devastating. I was dying to see it. I was really looking forward to seeing the obviously all the fights we did in the face off, but I was really looking forward to Paddy Holohan versus Leon Hill as well. So I was like, Jesus, this is a fight that, you know, in 5 fights time it could be someone 5-0 versus 5-1. You know what I mean? Like, these are 2 absolute solid guys.
Paul Hughes, sorry, I forgot to say him as well.
Paul Hughes,
Paul Hughes is an animal as well. And anybody that you forgot,
that's all right.
Don't be open me DMs.
Also, shout out to Glenn McVeigh who went.
Yeah, Glenn went as well. Yeah, Glenn. And as I said, like I've respect for anybody that does the things that they do. And fair play to them going up a weight class and then getting the win. And the guy that was fighting was no joke either. So
he was a pure thoroughbred Dagestani as well. You could tell. You only have to have like a half-second glance at them, like Dagestan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Such great kind of. See, that, as I said, when I was out in Bahrain that time, it was just amazing. But like the Dagestan lads, the Kyrgyzstan lads, they like just kind of wrestling and grappling with other people and feeling the culture in grappling. You know, I remember one time, what's his name? Oh, Puncher King. Do you ever know him? Do you know him?
Oh, Sucker Punch. No.
Ali Bagatinov.
Yeah. Fought Demetrius Johnson. I think UFC 126.
Yeah, he's fighting in Brave now. I think he's fighting for the belt soon as well. He came and grappled in the gym one day. He doesn't speak English. Artem brought him in, and he doesn't speak English. at all, and I definitely don't speak Russian at all. And the two of us were having a conversation with grappling. It was amazing, really was. It always brings me back, as I said, to the idea of this sport of like places and things and people that we've never talked to. This sport has brought me to.
He was in your weight class at one stage as well, Paddy.
Absolutely, they all could have got it. I'm being straight with you. That's what I would have fought any single one of them on a day's notice. If you would have given it to me, I'm in there and I'm swinging. You know, flyweight. The weight used to kill me. You know, it used to be bad going out the flyweight. I don't think we ever lost that bantamweight. I don't think I'm undefeated at bantamweight. I was, but yeah, you know what?
I do think the UFC, once they had the flyweight division, once you were at flyweight, they were like, you have to stay there because we need the depth in the division. They didn't want to let anyone go up. You know what I mean? You almost had to be, Henry Cejudo to go for them to be like, fine, you can go up. You know what I mean? They were a bit funny about that. But Basma, maybe we should get into the results from the weekend and look forward to this weekend's card, and then we'll let Paddy leg it off. I'm sure he's a very busy man.
Yeah, no, I was really enjoying this, and sure we can do it again, Paddy. Maybe the week of Conor's fight if you want to come back on as well.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, okay, book it in. But okay, well, I'll just go over the card. Some of the cards happened over the weekend and the cards on this weekend, just so people know. Marvin Vettori defeated Kevin Holland. Shout out to Kevin Holland coming in on like what was it, 8 days notice, but Marvin Vettori got the win. Ross, where do you think Marvin Vettori should go from here?
I don't think the performance was like that strong enough to be like, right, he's jumped the queue and he gets to fight Israel Adesanya. I think if Robert Whittaker beats Kelvin Gastelum this weekend, I think Robert Whittaker is your man. He deserves a rematch. He defended the belt a few times as well, so I think he does deserve that rematch after racking off 3 wins since he lost. I'd like to see him probably fight maybe Jared Cannonier or maybe Derek Brunson, just because I think Darren Till's going to be out for a while.
Paddy, what about yourself?
I've had to say fair play to man Holland. I'm actually looking at trying to get me bet up here.
Oh, who you bet on?
Yeah, and I had Holland in it and all. To get it. You know what I mean? I was like, he's coming in. He's gonna be fresh. He's gonna be. I mean, if he had a thought like he has in him, I think he would win that. But he just kept getting taken down. So yeah. I had I don't know if you can probably see that there, but
Mackenzie Dern, Arnold Allen, Kevin Holland, and who was the first one?
And Kevin Holland. All right, £100. All right, now never really bet, right? But I was like, this is the day. I haven't been out to a pub in about a million years, all right? It would be like $4,000 or something like that back.
Oh wow,
yeah. I didn't back my Perry either, to be honest. Like I know, like I just can't really trust his
girlfriend giving the corner advice.
Yeah, but just
he's just Holland not had to give him, or if Holland had a won that, I was going to send that slip over to Darren Till and let him deal with him.
Stop the lights.
No, but shout out to Julian Marquez, Miley Cyrus's favorite fighter as well. He won over the weekend. But like, lads, if you're looking at the card this weekend, this UFC, Rob Whittaker's headline against Kevin Gastelum. The rest of the card isn't actually that great, but there is some notable names like who the fuck is that guy? Jeremy Stevens, Andrei Arlovsky stepping up on short notice to face Chase Sherman, and Luis Pena's on the card, and Abdul Razak Al Hassan, who had a great reputation until he lost his last fight. But we'll just stick on the main one. Robert Whittaker against Kelvin Gastelum. Ross, you touched on you think Whittaker is going to get the job done. But Paddy, where are you putting your £100 on this weekend? Kelvin Gastelum or Robert Whittaker?
First time I ever seen Gastelum fighting, I was actually live while he was fighting for the Ultimate Fighter finale, and I was going to the Ultimate Fighter trials the next day. The Seamus picking his nose. All right, say hello to the boys.
How's it going?
Hi, Seamus.
Hey, Seamus.
So, and Kevin Gastelum, at the time in the Ultimate Fighter, do you remember that when he was going downstairs? I don't know if you've seen this, and he's eating a chicken burrito before they're filling him back upstairs, and he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm fueling my body."
He's been around a long time. That was about 10 years ago, Paddy.
Yeah, so when you think of these times, and then you have Andrei Arlovsky go up out. You know what I mean? Oh, sorry, Robert Whittaker, another veteran of the Ultimate Fighter as well. Even coaching the Ultimate Fighter as well, I think, didn't he?
Those two actually coached against each other, and then I think Whittaker got injured, and then Adesanya fought Kelvin Gastelum.
Right.
That's the way that actually went down.
Sort of relationship,
so like these did a whole season the Ultimate Fighter and then didn't fight against each other, which is probably quite strange. So look, these two are absolute gents of the fight game. I always look at Kelvin Gastelum and think, I feel like his career might end with what could have been. You know what I mean? I feel like, as you said, he's a man who loves his food. If he got his diet in check, he probably could have been down at 170. He probably would have been a title contender there. He gave Tyron Woodley all he could get and then some 170.
Yeah.
Well, he actually missed weight a bit. Torm Woody, very generous. He actually told me you could keep the money, don't worry about it. But I think he could have been a champion at 170. I think at 185, as good as he is, he's just undersized, and I just don't see him being able to get 3 or 4 wins in a row and get the belt. To be honest,
no. But I have to say, I think Robert Whittaker probably does him there because I think Kevin wouldn't be able to get the takedown, and even if he does, I don't think if he's consecutively able to get a takedown, that's the main event, is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So 5-round fight as well. You know what I mean? Now we know that Kevin has the eye to go, but Kevin or Robert Whittaker has the idea to be able to beat you up and break you in places. You know what I mean? Break your leg, go to the body, break the head.
He's done 10 rounds with Yoel Romero. Anyone who's done 10 rounds with Yoel Romero is there for the long haul.
Yeah, you should just retire him on a $100 million contract or something like that. You know what I mean? For that.
Yeah,
that's what you should get me 10 rounds with Yoel.
I'm gonna go for Whittaker as well on this one, lads. I can see it being a decision though. But like it's sort of like Adesanya Gastelum one, just like because Gastelum just does not stop.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, should be good. Should be good.
Big head, hard to knock out.
Big head, big heart. Also on Friday night, lads, we're just going to finish up with Bellator here. Ryan Bader defeated Lyoto Machida in the rematch. Lyoto obviously beat him the first time. Ryan Bader goes on to the next round of the Bellator Light Heavyweight Grand Prix. Paddy, who do you think is going to win the Light Heavyweight Grand Prix?
I have to say Ryan Bader is underestimated.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? I think he's always been a great fighter. To be honest, I'm not too up to scratch on the whole Bellator kind of who's in the rankings and who's in this, because I'm not saying that isn't, but it never is really deep, is it? Or am I wrong saying that?
Well, the light heavyweight division is quite deep. I think the problem is in Ireland, it's very hard to watch. Your channel changing to actually watch it. But I'll give you a quick rundown of the tournament. Bader beat Machida, and Corey Anderson's fighting this weekend against some boy from
Yagshimuradov.
Yeah, Yagshimuradov. Never heard of him, Paddy. No one heard of him. But Vadim Nemkov.
That boy can wrestle.
Vadim Nemkov, the Bellator light heavyweight champion, is fighting Phil Davis this weekend. And then the fourth fight, which is one you'll really like, Paddy, is Anthony Rumble Johnson versus Yoel Romero.
Yeah, there we go. That's a scrap, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ooh, they're going to reinforce the octagon for that, or the cage, or whatever it's called in Bellator.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're the 8 names who are in the tournament. Vadim Nemkov is the current champ. So, like, their light heavyweight division is probably as deep as the UFC's at the moment when you take John Jones over. But yeah, it's very hard to follow Bellator at times over here. You don't really know where it's going to be on.
I find it hard to follow. Do you know what? Even to follow any of it anymore, just with family life, you know yourself. I've got like 20 to watch that are like pre-recorded ones and so or recorded. So I mean to watch, but I got to watch the UFC this weekend, and I haven't done that in ages because it was early. It was brilliant. Cheese board.
It's very nice. It's very nice at that time, isn't it? We should sign a petition over here in Europe to get it always at that time.
That's what we need to be doing.
Yeah, in bed before 12 o'clock.
Oh, stop!
That's
Slightly drunk.
Yeah, but
that's all right.
Like Nemkov is fighting Davis for the second time this weekend as well, and Anderson's fighting Yagshimuradov. I'm going to go for Nemkov in this. Lads, do you want to give your pick on the Davis Nemkov fight?
Yeah, I'll go first. I'm going to go against the grain here. I know I've said Nemkov as probably one of the favourites of the tournament, but this is a rematch. Nemkov actually took the belt off Phil Davis. I feel Phil Davis will be hungry in the rematch, and he'll be able to get the job done. That's what I'm going to say. Even though Nemkov trains with Fedor, so he's probably well tuned in that sambo, but Phil Davis also has the best shoulders in MMA. Yeah. They're bleeding triangles on top of his shoulders.
Phil Davis is an animal, isn't he? I haven't got to see that first fight, but I would have to go to Phil Davis with this one as well because he's a hard man to bet against. Solid fighter, you know what I mean? Really good wrestling, really good technique, and dangerous, especially against the fence on the separation or that like that. Man can spin and chop your eyebrow off, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then, Paddy, before we let you go, right, this is the last one. Jake Paul's fighting Ben Askren this Saturday. I know you've already paid for the pay-per-view.
I'm closing this laptop down now.
You don't know who you think's going to win.
I just like to see that Jake Paul getting punched straight in the face.
Same with everyone.
Just being straight. Like, the minute I see him getting squared, one in the nose, I'm just turning the telly off. Then that's I'm happy. You know what I mean? I'm just going to be like, that's the way I have. I don't listen. Anybody that gets into the ring, I don't care if you're a YouTuber or whatever you are, but it's scary getting in there one way or another. You know, the lad has a lot of money, obviously, so he doesn't have to do it for the money. So there's about this much of me that gives him that respect for that. You know what I mean? I think he's, I respect that factor. But this is probably the first time that he's fought a fighter, and Ben Askren is definitely not a boxer or definitely not a stand-up fighter, you know what I mean? But he's a fighter. And I don't care if you get tired, if he gets tired in there against Ben Askren, he's going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I agree. Ross?
Oh, you know what? You know I hate talking about this fight. It's just one of those things where like I'm just like, oh, here.
It has to be brought up. This is pop culture right now. You can't.
I know. Like, look, Jake Paul's younger. He's probably he's in the better shape now between the two of them. Ben's coming off hip surgery. He's been boxing training for the last 3 years. Ben Askren's putting a camp together for 12 weeks. It is a different sport to MMA, especially considering he relied on his grappling so heavily in his MMA career. Look, I'm sure the bookies' favorite is probably Jake Paul, but I refuse to say he's going to win, so I'm going to say Ben Askren.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. I just can't go against Ben Askren. But
I think this pausing on him, just literally comes out body head. You know what I mean? It's like I'm
just very into Frank Mir's on the undercard as well, fighting someone as well. Like, so this is going to be Frank Mir's boxing someone on the undercard.
Frank Mir.
Yeah.
He can box.
Yeah, well,
yeah. I think he's fighting like a proper professional boxer though. He's not fighting like a YouTuber.
Yeah, but a random question.
All about it. That's what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
You know?
A random thing, lads. Do you think that this UFC card this weekend isn't overly stacked because Dana knows that people are going to be checking out Jake Paul versus Ben Askren? Because he's after betting like over $1 million and stuff. So maybe he's like hold back with a few of these lads and then go all out again next week.
Dana's no bleeding. He's not new anyway to the thing. He's a veteran of the game, so he absolutely knows. So that absolutely could be the thing at saying there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, here, look, Paddy, we're going to wrap things up there because like we've kept you too long when you're a very busy man. But Paddy, I want to thank you very much for coming on and speaking about the Irish MMA scene as well, because it's very important to me. It's very important to Ross. Obviously, it's very important to you. It's your whole life. It's I know hopefully the people that tuned in today like took something from it, because like myself and Ross do plan on inviting more and more head coaches on to just discuss these sort of things, because I'm sure people have stuff to say and they want to find out more. And you know what I mean? We all love the sport at the end of the day. That's why we do this. Ross?
Absolutely. Same here. I couldn't agree more. And I have to say fair play to yourselves, lads, as well, because it's not easy. I know you are not sitting there with bags of money getting paid for this year.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
You're short, Ross, might give away. People might think you're getting paid slightly a little bit better.
He is. He's getting paid more.
I'm doing the old fake it till you make it here, Paddy. I'm actually unemployed, so
as much as anybody. The reason why I set the podcast up at that time when I did back in the day was to make sure that people had a platform and the young athletes had a platform to be able to talk, and not only that, but to be defended as well and pushed forward as well, because they need it, and that's it.
Yeah,
you know.
I really enjoyed your podcast as well, Paddy. You know, I really enjoyed it.
We'll be back soon. Don't worry, we'll be back in a little while.
No shame, we'll be back.
There we go. But,
maybe we might make it on the red couch someday.
Use our own, boys. We had those in.
Yeah, but Paddy, thanks a million for coming on. Make sure to follow Paddy's work as well. Paddy, we want to thank you again very much for coming on. It was just really, really great crack, and people get to find out more about Irish MMA. So, Ross, anything else to say before we wrap things up?
No, just you up the SPG Dublin 24. You can't beat it. One of the best mixed martial arts gyms in the country. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and as always, stay energized.